we're studying this right now as we speak. Civil War.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we're running a little bit late, so I guess we should call this to order. Roll call, please.
Larson.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
Zimnock.
Here.
Okay. With our work session called to order, I guess we can introduce our guest from Journey Through Hallowed Ground. Thought we'd have a name for you. I already forgot your name after the introduction. Sorry about that.
I'm Sean Butcher,
Okay.
Okay, Sean.
and let me see how this is going to work. What's going on? Here we are. I made a note myself to turn it on before, but I didn't turn it on. How's that? Okay, how about that? How about now?
Yes, I can hear it now.
Maybe I need to move it up a little bit as well. I can do that. Well, for the record, again, my name is Sean Butcher, and I am with the Journey Through Hallowed Ground Partnership. My official title and role is Director of the National Scenic Byway, which we'll talk extensively in a little bit. Let me make sure this works. I just need to click. Scroll down. Button. Let's see a way to advance the slides.
About rolling it.
Roll. There's a wheel. Scroll it.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I gotta roll that. Gotcha. Okay, so I want to give you a brief overview just for those that may not have the context about our work in this region, and then I really want to focus and spend most of the time that we have this evening on our wayfinding initiative and signage plan. The Journey Through Hallowed Ground National Heritage Area is 180 miles long and 75 miles wide. The National Heritage Areas fall under the Department of Interior and National Park Service. We were designated as the 38th National Heritage Area in the country. Right now there are about 45. Everybody knows what a national park is. You typically know that you're entering a national park boundary. And even though we fall under the National Park Service, you may not know that you're in a National Heritage Area. National Heritage Areas are lands comprised of both public and private lands, parks, businesses, really you name it. It's a region that's defined by geography, so there are geographic boundaries, but people may not know that they're in a National Heritage Area. And I'll talk about what the purpose of the National Heritage Areas are in a short while. But just to give you some context, our National Heritage Area runs from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania to Charlottesville, Virginia. It's a 180-mile corridor, and the center line, if you will, is the Journey Through Hallowed Ground National Scenic Byway. So that's our artery that connects all of these historic sites, these natural and scenic, beautiful, beauty locations like parks and wineries and farms, and that's, of course, what falls particularly under my purview. But this gives you an idea of how it looks in terms of regional geography. National Heritage Areas essentially have common themes or characteristics. When we were created, we had to go in front of Congress and get a congressional designation. So every National Heritage Area, and for that matter, National Scenic Byway, is designated by Congress. We have 3 themes, and those themes include landed leadership. So that's where we talk about, some of our founding presidents down in the southern terminal and terminus, like Jefferson, Madison, and Monroe. Up in the northern terminus, you have, Eisenhower and Lincoln, and what they did up in Gettysburg. And then you have others, obviously, in between. Within the land of leadership concept, we talk about ideas, and some of these are ideas that are really defining moments in our American history, whether it's the Gettysburg Address, whether it's the Declaration of Independence, whether it's the Emancipation Proclamation. All of those are ideas that had some connection to this region. Either they came from individuals from this region, or they were inspired by activities or events that occurred within this region. under the land of leadership, of course, we have 9 presidential sites. Mentioned the 3, Madison, Jefferson, and Monroe. We also have Teddy Roosevelt had a hunting cabin in the Charlottesville area. If closer to this region, the Kennedys, of course, had a home in Middleburg. Just a little further north, Monroe had another home just above the Loudoun County border and at Oak Hill. And then, of course, we have Eisenhower and the connection up in Gettysburg as well. We also have 2 World Heritage Sites, which are designated by UNESCO, the United Nations. Both of them are affiliated with Jefferson, his home, Monticello, as well as UVA. It's pretty unique to have 2 World Heritage Sites within a region or within close proximity that they are, and we're very fortunate for that. The second theme, of course, is land of conflict and reunification. That being said, basically talking about all the battles and activities that took place, particularly the Civil War. You can't, as you know, walk anywhere in this region without probably crossing Civil War battlefields. And so we talk about this region has a rich history and connection to everything from Native American history and African American history, but also sites from the French and Indian War, Revolutionary War, War of 1812, and, as I mentioned, the largest concentration of Civil War battlefields in the country. So these are the things and reasons why we felt that this region had a lot to offer, not only to residents, but to visitors alike. Within the land of conflict and reunification, we have 13 national parks. One just south here, of course, at Manassas. Most of our national parks are historic parks, so they connect to a local or actually national history, versus parks out west like Yosemite and Grand Canyons that are more natural and scenic parks. We do have a couple parks, of course, that fall under the national and scenic beauty category, and really all of our parks have a natural and scenic beauty element to them, but they are mainly were created because of the history focus. And as I mentioned, we really try to talk about the full American story and full American journey. So we talk about Native American and African American sites as well. And then our third theme is the land of natural scenic beauty. And within this region, we know and are cognizant of the growth and development that's taking place. So we want to at least shed light on the important beauty that this region has, with the mountains and the Piedmonts and the valleys and everything in between. Along those lines, we have numerous national and state scenic rivers, streams. We have wonderful trails and assets for outdoor recreational activities. I already mentioned the array of farms and orchards and wineries. In fact, within the 180-mile corridor that I talked to you about, there are over 100 wineries. So if you did the math, you could stop every 1.8 miles at a winery. I wouldn't suggest it, but you could.
As long as someone else was driving.
That's
right?
true. That's true. And of course, they're not spread out exactly. That's an average. They're clustered very well. We have a number of Main Street communities, historic sites, historic museums, and the Haymarket Museum is one of our partners, for example. And we've done activities and programs with the Haymarket Museum, with the library, the brand new Haymarket Gainesville Library. We just had a presentation there last week, actually. But to give you a little bit of background on how we were created, the National Trust for Historic Preservation every year comes out with a list of 11 most endangered places. It could be a building, it could be a structure, it could be a site, it could be a section of town. And in 2005, this region, because of its significant growth and development, within the greater Washington suburbs, we were losing farms and we were losing battlefields, just being paved over and created for residential or commercial districts. And so there was at least an interest by a lot of stakeholders in our community and communities up and down this region who wanted to at least try to do something about it, to raise awareness about it. And so in 2005, we were on that list, and that's actually the year that our organization was created. A quick group of people got together and said, what can we do about it? As an organization, we have produced a number of resources and books that kind of at least shed light and help tell the stories of this region. So we've produced a book with National Geographic. we've produced a guidebook. I call this the AAA book of this region because it's a site-by-site specific guide. So you can go county by county and learn about sites and places to stop and visit and shop and eat and stay at a B&B, et cetera, et cetera. And then we've also, like I said, because we wanted to highlight the African American history, we gathered 30 different historians and African American experts to help put together a book to really tell that story within this region as well. And that's also a kind of a county by county guide book, if you will. You can use this as a resource to learn about these special places. I won't go into really too much detail about our other programs and activities, but we also have a program that engages students. So we try to reach the next generation of stewards and caretakers for these historic and scenic places. So we have a program that we work with schools and typically a historic site, either a national park or a place like Thomas Jefferson's Monticello. And during the school year, the students produce essentially mini documentaries, 3 to 5 minutes long, about what happened at that place. And it's the history in their backyard, but it's also relevant history to the nation. So it's not only just local history, but it's national history. And so the students become it's student-led, student-driven. They become the filmmakers, they're the directors, they're the actors, they're the editors, you name it. And those, we call them podcasts, and those podcasts are online in a number of different places, including our website, YouTube, etc. We also have a summer camp program that, again, really encourages and engages students to go out and visit these places so that they can actually become more familiar with the history and with resources that are available in their community. So kind of getting a little bit more now specific about the National Scenic Byway. I mentioned that in addition to the National Heritage Area designation that we received in 2008, the following year we actually went after the National Scenic Byway designation. So in 2009, we through a very competitive process, we had to come to many communities like Haymarket and get resolutions of support from governing bodies, and then went to Congress and the Federal Department of Transportation to get essentially Route 15. When you go further south into the Charlottesville area, there are a couple other routes that it takes, but to get Route 15 designated as a National Scenic Byway. And we were successful, designated the 99th National Scenic Byway in the country, signed by Secretary Ray LaHood at the time and President George W. Bush. And really, there are only about 150 National Scenic Byways in the country. So this is a special designation, and we're trying to keep it as special as we can. We know that both designations, I will tell you, are somewhat honorific. There's really no police power or enforcement power. We try to help communities set guidelines and establish guidelines and think about how to keep and utilize the Scenic Byway designation as a tool. And it is a tool. It can be a tool for economic development. It can be a tool for tourism. Europeans, typically when they come to the U.S., one of the top things that they love to do are actually travel scenic byways. So they love to rent cars, and that's been through tons and tons of travel research, that they love to get in a car, and they love to just drive, and they love to drive scenic routes. So this, is a tool, again, but it's an honorific title, but it's a tool that we can use in our communities up and down this region. Along those lines, I'll just let you know about one of our other programs that falls under the National Scenic Byway Initiative, and that is a tree planting program. It's called the Living Legacy Tree Project. It's one of our ways to connect history and the environment, because our goal is to plant one tree for every soldier that died during the American Civil War. And that number, according to most experts, is 620,000. Recently, historians have actually suggested that number could be bumped up, but until there's a full agreement, we're keeping that number to 620,000, because already 620,000 trees is a lot of trees to plant. So we launched it as part of the sesquicentennial of the Civil War, just the period between 2011 and 2015, and we have about 4,000 trees in the ground. So that means we have about 616,000 to go. It's a long-term project, but we've actually planted north of you and south of you, and we're actually working very, very soon, hopefully, to be planting here in Prince William County.
That'd be a good thing for Earth Day.
Yes, yeah, it would be. And we do work with communities on some Earth Day projects. So, again, I'm not here to talk about that, but if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to have a conversation. Just real quick, the trees that we plan to plant includes 4 primary trees. They're all in the red family, kind of symbolic of courage and bravery and sacrifice. Red bud, red oak, red maple, and red cedar. But in addition to the symbolic nature of being kind of in the red family, they're all natives, and they're all somewhat seasonal. So red buds, of course, in late spring. Red maple, red oak are great trees in the fall. And then the red cedar tree is a great winter tree. So that's kind of the idea of those 4 trees. We do have a secondary palette. I think you could see that list there. And that just allows us a little bit of flexibility. We wanted to kind of create what we call the cherry blossom effect, so that when you're driving this National Scenic Byway, you do get a sense, because of its environment, that there's something going on here, that there's something special. But we didn't want to just stick with one tree, because you never know about if there's a disease or something that might affect a particular tree.
It would take it all out.
Like the chestnut. So that's the reason why we didn't want to stick with one tree. So that's why we picked 4. We didn't want too many, because then that would delineate the kind of the effect or specialness, if you will, and the uniqueness. But that's the reason why we stuck with 4. I will say that 85% of all the trees we want to plant are within that primary palette. So this list is really just allows us to make up that other 15% to maybe augment particular properties or locations or sites within the region. We're planting in a lot of different ways. So you can see that in the LA concept, where there might be street trees, informal LAs, but we're also planting a lot in clusters and groves. Most of our plantings to date have been in groves or clusters. And I think I kept just a couple slides of just how it could look in communities. And we're partnering with I might say that we're planting in VDOT right-of-ways. We're planting on private land. In other words, individuals who own farms have signed up to participate with us. Obviously, private lands that are commercial, businesses have signed up to participate. And towns and parks and community colleges have also signed up. So it's really a mixed bag of where these trees are being planted. Just to give you an idea of what they could look like in the different seasons, I think I threw a couple of slides in there of what they could look like up and down the corridor.
Very cool.
Oh, there we go. Okay, and then really my main focus, and I want to have plenty of time for conversation and dialogue, because I know that you all are interested in this particularly. So another element, in addition to the tree planting and the beautification that we have embarked on, we are also planning this wayfinding initiative. Mm-hmm. And there are 5 National Scenic Byways in Virginia. The other 4 are marked. This one is not. And so you have no idea that you're on a National Scenic Byway. You have no idea the name. You have no idea the context. You just know it numerically, maybe by 15 or whatever. So that's really the nucleus and impetus for us to help build this region with a brand, if you will, create a brand and connect these communities and these historic sites together. Mm-hmm. Because nothing can operate in a silo. Everything is, everything impacts everything else. Historic sites, even if you're if you're interested in the Civil War, obviously you're going to go to more than one Civil War site. But even say a different part of American history, connecting what Jefferson's words of all men are created equal to the Civil War. Mm-hmm. Because the Civil War didn't happen by itself. It actually stems back to this idea that all men are created equal. And obviously at that time, everyone wasn't. So it's connecting even those different periods of our American history together to tell this story. And all of this, again, is connected to this region. So that's the purpose and real intent behind this wayfinding initiative. We have 3 different types of signs that we are working on. One is essentially called a gateway sign, and it's obviously a bigger sign, a bigger marker, kind of a little bit more scenic, if you will. It has a little bit more character. And it's intended to be placed at, gateway points. So down in the southern end, it makes sense because you're just now entering. Up in the northern end, it makes sense because you might just now be entering. And guess where else it makes sense? Right in this region, because we're utilizing major roads or interstates. So if you're coming off 66 and you get on the 15 either accidentally or on purpose, you have no idea that you're on a national scenic byway. So there is obviously specific interest in putting a gateway sign, just so that it makes a nice statement and and it lets people know that, oh, okay, what is this place? I may not know that what is this Journey Through Hollow Ground? And it might allow them to look it up or learn a little bit more. So that's the gateway signs. We also have, they're called different things. They're called trailblazers, or they could be also corridor markers. If you go on any other national scenic byway, you've probably seen these. The America's Byway logo is the central logo that allows you to know that you're actually on a national scenic byway. So there will be a number of these, of course, up and down Route 15, particularly to let you know if you need to make a turn. Like
The signs are brown, right?
the name signs,
Yes,
the indicator
yeah.
signs are brown. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, there'll be a number of instances within this region of where these will be placed too. For example, just south of here, of course, when 15 and 29 come together, there'll be an indication that you'll need to make a right-hand turn if you want to stay on the National Scenic Byway. So there's a number of places where that will go. And then the third sign, I call them wayfinding signs. They're also called vehicular signs. And those signs actually point traffic or visitors to a specific area, to main destinations. There's no way, obviously, that you could put every destination on a sign. So they are, centric to get people off the byway and to points of interest. And so there will be less of these, and they'll be more sporadic. But we are working with communities that are interested in getting people into their community or to a specific location. So just to give you a couple of examples, the photo or the image on the left gives you an indication of where a sign might go. And I think we're north of 66 here. Just again, so folks heading south, there'll be an indication that there'll be a sign there. And I think these are so if you have any specific questions, and again, at the Route 29 intersection, again, you'll see a need for a sign to direct people. I have the full draft master plan. We're actually still working on the fine-tuning, if you will, this master plan for our signage. So if you're ever interested in seeing that, just let me know, and I'd be happy to talk with you further about very site-specific locations. And really, we wanted to have that conversation with you now, because I know that you're interested in doing some wayfinding as well. So really, that's just kind of what I wanted to share with you in terms of an overview, but I know that we've set most of the time aside to really just have a conversation.
I had just two quick questions. First, once this byway was, or the area, the region was put on the 11 most endangered, top 11, does it ever leave that? Do you see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yeah.
There is, technically no. I mean, the National Trust uses that list to just garner attention and raise awareness in about these places. It's also honorific. I mean, if you're on that list, I mean, there are places on that list. I can't remember exactly how long they've been putting out this list of 11, but there are places that are, of course, that are gone, that were unfortunately endangered and lost. So it's just an opportunity to raise awareness that these places have some unique character or special connection to our history, and then that's about it. So every year they put together, they do nominations. They do a nomination so people can nominate places, but then after that they
There's a purpose to my question there. I don't know how familiar you are with this area, but they're trying to put the Dominion Power Towers out here.
Yes.
And we're really trying to fight it. So that's something that's, a good.
Yes, and the one thing I didn't get to mention in my introduction is I'm I've been with the Journey for about 3.5 years, but I just became the Scenic Byway Director. So I've been on the job as Byway Director for 2 months. So I've been brought into that conversation, but I'm still learning as well.
Because we're having the SCC hearings at the high school, like, they're ongoing now.
Right, there was one Monday night, I think, that I couldn't attend, and then there's another one I know
May,
scheduled.
yeah.
And I hope to be at that one.
Oh, good.
I just couldn't arrange my schedule for the Monday night presentation. So.
Just get there early to sign up. I had to wait 3 hours to speak.
So we are, there's an advantage to getting there early. So we are, because it's a national scenic byway, we are following that proposed initiative very closely.
Oh, good.
I think it could be precedent setting if the current proposal aligns with the national scenic byway and follows that down. Then again, it's another hit to the scenic byway designation. And we've got issues already, pockets. I mean, there are sections that it doesn't feel scenic. Or if I was an outsider from Ohio traveling, I'm like, why is this? There are places all up and down 15 that I would say, why is this designated as a national scenic byway? And so that would be just another hit, in our opinion. And so I'm trying to get up to speed on that initiative as possible, and hope to be involved.
Oh, that would be great. One other quick question. How long do you think it will take to get these, what's the long-range plan for getting these signs installed? And
so we've been meeting with VDOT and the company that created our master plan, AECOM. They're out of Orlando. They do a lot of stuff across the country. We are very close to submitting the full master plan to VDOT for approval. And then after that, your guess is as good as mine how long it might take, for that approval process to happen. But right now the ball is on our court, so we've got a few more things that we have to do with our contractor, AECOM, to submit to VDOT. And once it's in VDOT's hands, they'll obviously need some time to review it. But if I had to guess, my hope is that we would have authorization to issue an RFP by this coming late summer, early fall.
yeah.
Fall 2016 would be my hope, would hopefully be my deadline. So then it's just a matter of getting the proposals in, selecting a company to actually fabricate and then install.
And who pays for the signs?
So we have two different grants. Our primary grant is a federal grant, a transportation grant. So it's an 80-20, so it has to be matched locally by 20%. I will tell you, in the previous round of Prince William government, Prince William did allocate some funding.
Okay.
Albemarle County allocated some funding. So the local match, we are going to local partners to help get.
Okay.
And again, all they have to come up with is 20% of the cost of what's taking place locally. I have to, again, since I'm relatively new, I have to just revisit that to see where that stands, if that money is still being held for this project, those types of things. I expect that we will start in Albemarle County and work our way up with actual fabrication and installation.
Right.
So.
Okay, good, thank you.
What I'd like to know also is, I know that you've talked about wayfinding, obviously, and so I'd like to hear a little bit more about what you've talked about in the past and how we can help or integrate the two concepts or two plans, if you will.
Ken?
Well, we've identified what our gateways are, and we're tossing around what type of sign designs we want to put in those. Pretty similar to what you've done with your gateway signs. You've got different alternatives. We wanted to try to make something that would be congruent with yours and wouldn't end up clashing with it.
Right.
So right now we haven't locked down on any design for what I would consider our major gateway design, similar to your larger, which we would be putting on 15, probably right where the Diamond interchange is, where the roads crosses each other, something about right there. And like I said, we wanted to see what design that you had in place to see how we wanted to try and conform or at least blend in with it.
Absolutely, and we want them to be as congruent and synergistic as possible. If you drive north, Leesburg, the town of Leesburg is a perfect example. If you drive north, there's some relatively new gateway signage to Leesburg. They were aware of our master plan and even the draft of it, so they also did the same thing. They used that as a model, and so I think there is, when ours gets placed and put in, it will blend in nicely with what they've already installed. So I think a lot of opportunities to work together so that there is some kind of continuity for the traveler. I mean, you don't want things to necessarily stand out too much.
Yeah, as well as the landscaping around it. You even have a piece of that in here. Do you have any type of actual detailed list of here's what we have that's approved? This is in presentation form, so this doesn't exactly give a...
In terms of signage or landscaping?
And stuff like that.
Yeah, our Living Legacy project, the palette that I shared with you is established and set. And I'll go back to Leesburg as an example. With their gateway signage, they also did some landscaping and some streetscaping, and they used our palette. I mean, they wanted to plant trees. They didn't necessarily care which kind of trees they planted, so they used our palette.
Right.
And then we adopted those trees. I didn't go into great detail about the Living Legacy Tree Project, but the one thing that we do with that project is each tree is geotagged, so we get the GIS coordinates, the longitude and latitude, and place those trees on an online website. And then it becomes an educational tool because people can hover over a tree with their mouse or with their fingers if they're on a smartphone or anything. And the details of that tree will pop up. It's
So cool.
Obviously, it's location, it's type of tree, it's species, if you will. But then the details of the soldier also pops up of who that tree is honoring.
That is so cool.
And so there are essentially yellow dots on the map. And so
Right.
what we're doing is we're creating this map of yellow dots that we also want to be all the way up and down this corridor. So if Haymarket wanted to adopt and partner with us to plant those trees, we'll come in and we'll geotag them. We actually get students to research the soldiers, so it really becomes an integrated and comprehensive initiative because it engages students who are doing research on the soldiers, connects with history, and then of course the beautification element is obvious as well.
Yeah, that's something that we're really interested in because I'm the liaison to the town council, and I'm sure they would be interested in that.
And
doing
as you know,
that.
this is not strictly just down the 15 corridor.
Right,
This
right,
is
right, right.
75 mile.
Right, correct.
Right, exactly.
So this could be all through our town.
Right.
Absolutely.
We'd be very interested in that.
Yeah, so again, be happy to talk to anybody at any time about that and how we do that and move forward. So we are talking with a couple. I'm working with Prince William's Historic Preservation Coordinator to identify a couple sites already. So we could talk about Haymarket.
We might even set something up for him to do a presentation for the council. That might be a good thing. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, with the bike paths that we're starting to put right down here and stuff, we can get a few trees.
Trees,
and tag it.
absolutely.
And we do have, we work, in order to get a tree in the ground, we work, again, the byway and the heritage area status, doesn't allow us to, when we were first created, there were some property rights, concerns, that the heritage area or the scenic byway designation was going to impact or affect property rights. We have no actual control or purview over property rights. So in other words, in order for us to plant a tree, we have to identify partners, whether it's public partners or private partners, to actually plant the trees. And so what we either do is we can either come in and help plant the tree, either identify funding sources, to cover the cost of the trees, or even if you already have it built into a capital improvement project like Leesburg did,
Right.
then you go ahead and plant the tree because we don't have to physically plant every tree, but we're able to come in on the back end and geotag them and bring in the educational side and tie in with the history. So we work with a lot of different ways and with a lot of different partners.
With planting trees.
Yeah,
Down the corridor.
Other,
Would be nice.
yeah. That's very interesting.
yeah. And I have yet to do this. I've been, I mean, you're pretty close to the center, the heart of the 180-mile corridor.
Yeah.
I have actually never physically, one day I actually want to put an actual marker. This is halfway, the halfway point of the journey through hollow ground.
We'd
But
be
you're
happy
pretty
to.
close. But you're
We're
pretty
pretty
close.
close.
So, in other words, if you go roughly 90 miles north, 90 miles south, that's the highway. So at some point, maybe it's just 2 miles up the road or 2 miles down the road. But one day I actually do want to physically find out
Where the halfway
where the halfway
point
point
is.
is. But let me tell you, you are pretty close. And so one of the
I have to
things
go down to Charlottesville in a couple weeks. I'll come
will
back
you-
this
will you-
way and
will you
tell you.
report the,
I'll start at Monticello
there
and
you
come
go,
back this
and
way.
work your way up. Exactly. Because what we say is, as soon as you come out Monticello, as soon as you come out Thomas Jefferson's Drive,
Okay.
and turn left, that's the National Scenic Byway.
Okay.
So you're on it as soon as you get on the 53 down there.
I could even get my son to do it this weekend. He's coming. We'll see if.
There you go. But my point is that you're pretty close, and so,
Yeah.
this would be a great tie-in, I think, for Haymarket to be able to
Exactly.
say you're in the center or you're in the heart of the Journey Through Hollow Ground Scenic Byway and Heritage Area.
That's awesome.
Other thoughts or questions?
I'm good. You answered all my questions I had written down, so I didn't
Oh,
really
good,
have to
good.
ask.
Now, if we want to do something similar to your sign, I mean, are your signs locked into the descriptive on, like, for instance, the Stoneworks, you pretty much have a representative sign on it saying this is a journey through hallowed ground. Is there any type of partnership or integration signs that you have as examples?
I mean,
or
that
or
are
is this a
non-
locked-in design right here?
That's pretty representative of the Scenic Byway sign. But, if you're wanting to actually do a Haymarket, marker or identifier, I think there's a way that we could probably, work to make that as congruent as possible.
Because, like, if we wanted to do our own thing, but we do want to, should we say, give you a plug, come up with some type of partnership sign that says, part of the Journey Through Hallowed Ground experience or something of that sort. I didn't know if you had any type of partnership signs in which.
That's a good question.
examples.
We haven't identified anything specific like that, but until we actually go and disseminate the RFP to fabricators, telling them exactly what we want, then I think there's some opportunity for us to have that conversation and dialogue.
Because like I said, we're still in the concept stage of what we want to lock into as a design. And this might be another angle that we, if we wanted to promote this, saying, we're participating, supposedly, we're partnering with the Journey Through Hallowed Ground. Just, because what's the
Absolutely.
concept? Bringing in business. You got people actually driving through this. They see this and, oh, well, okay, here's a...
Exactly.
And we weren't going to put our sign out on 15 until the Divergent Diamond interchange
all
is
that
done.
stuff
That's,
developed.
so we have a little bit of time to work on that aspect of
Exactly.
it.
I actually do have another question. How many signs are you looking to have?
I don't know if I can answer that off the top of my head.
Okay.
We do have a
Well,
list.
within our, like.
We have a
within
list.
The area, okay.
It depends on, are you talking about gateway signs, or are you talking about the Trailblazer signs?
Well, within our community.
Okay.
So you want to have a marker at 29, and you want to have a marker at 15. Are there any additional markers that you want to have within the town? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Are you asking him?
yeah, asking
Yeah, so,
him.
again, because we want to make sure that travelers from major interstates or routes or roads, we do expect a gateway. There'll be several communities that don't get a gateway sign. If you're in, let's say, Culpeper, there might not be a gateway sign in Culpeper. But because we want to welcome people off of 66 to this region specifically and to the National Scenic Byway, there is a gateway sign planned for north and south of 66. So regardless, if you're going on
Regardless of
66,
either way.
if you're going on 66 and you head north, we are looking. There's a planned sign somewhere.
And is it the big sign, or does it just depend on what fits with the?
It depends on what fits.
Yeah.
My personal preference is I do like this sign much better.
Uh-huh.
This sign, I don't quite understand personally its purpose. It'll be harder to read.
Right.
It'll blend in with the landscape
It'll be a
more.
magnet for cars.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It looks like it could be. I mean, that one is too, but, and we're cognizant of that, but my preference would be the one on the left.
Right.
If it makes sense, then the middle one will be a possibility as well. So there are gateway signs, again, planned there, and this is another example. Maybe when you take that right and you're on 15 and 29 at Buckland, that may be where that one, because you
right,
get off,
yeah.
obviously you can get off of 66 two different ways.
Right.
And there might be another gateway sign at the 29-15 interchange.
Right.
Only heading south. Heading north, there'll be just
Right.
a corridor sign. If you're
Right.
heading
It
north,
says this way.
yeah, if you're heading north,
Okay.
it'll tell you to make that left turn to stay on the scenic byway.
Got it.
And so any time where you have to direct traffic, so again, I don't know the exact number, I can get that for you. But anytime you have to direct traffic, if there's a decision for the traveler to make, if they have to make a left turn or right turn, there will be corridor signs. And there are also, at 66, there could also be a corridor sign. So the people that are still on 15, say they're not interacting with 66 at all, there could be a straight ahead sign too. So if you're north of
Right.
66
I see what
heading
you're
this direction, there may be a sign that just says, hey, stay on this in order to stay on the scenic byway. Don't go east or west on 66.
Right.
Stay,
Okay.
so they don't have to always just point left or right. They can also indicate,
Like at a busy intersection.
straight ahead.
to
Yes,
say,
straight
yeah.
ahead. Stay on the scenic byway, stay straight ahead. So I can get that list for you. I just don't have it off the top of my head or memorized. But and then again, this is where my need to follow up with Prince William County specifically in terms of where this fits into the picture. This also
Yeah.
fits into. This is more of the local match. Some communities, won't be able to participate or chose not to participate in this sign. The other two signs are kind of the more general signs and the broad stroke signs, if you will.
Okay.
I hope that helps, but I can
No,
get
it
you a
does.
specific list of you.
I think you were interested more just in this.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
It's
great.
a
not
immediate
the
threat.
whole
And making sure
project.
it doesn't take away from our placements of signs.
Right.
Right.
Because we want them to work together, but then we don't want them
Right.
to
Exactly.
overpower each other.
Exactly. And that's the case anywhere. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the case in Charlottesville. It's the case, it's the case in Culpeper, Warrenton. I mean, just, on and on. I think there's even Buckland is planning to do one or two additional signs just to point out that Buckland is there. The only sign I think that exists is the actual that history sign that's there.
The historic marker.
Yeah, the historic marker. So there's
Yeah.
really not an actual sign like that saying, hey, there's a historic village and
Right.
Civil War battlefield there too. So that they're planning on that. So we're working with them. That's another perfect example. We're working with them to make sure it blends.
I mean, I think we especially want to do it if we're going to do the whole tree thing and,
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
fascinating.
Very interesting.
And I also have my card up here. If you want
Oh,
to take
yes.
a business
Yeah,
card, I'm
that's-
happy
yeah,
to give you one after we wrap up here.
Absolutely. So much information. I'm so excited.
Any other questions?
I do not. I've gotten to see your presentation before, so, but that was about 3 years ago.
So that was before his time.
Yeah.
I've been with the journey for 3.5 years, but I was in a different capacity. So,
So are you a historian?
So my background is tourism and with a little bit of conservation and preservation in the mix. So,
Okay.
So that the byway is a nice fit because the byway again is a tourism and economic development tool, but also is a tool that to at least raise awareness of the need to be mindful of conservation and preservation too.
Okay.
Well, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate coming in early and before your official meeting. And again, my door is open. I'd be happy to come down anytime, talk with anybody.
awesome.
And anytime you have follow-up questions, don't hesitate to call me, email me. I appreciate
Absolutely.
your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like one of your cards.
Okay.
though.
Thank you.